Hi there, and welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, Rosa Coelho, health coach, trainer, and teacher. I'm also founder of the Simply Strong programs and community. Here, we cut through the noise to simplify health, personal growth, and lifestyle, helping you to thrive with ease, confidence, and vitality. Listen in because you never know when you may hear something that changes everything. Hello, beautiful friend. Happy September. Oh my goodness. I love this month. Okay. I'll be honest, not as much as I love July and August because I am a summer girl, but there is something so refreshing about September. It feels as though it's another January. I love this period because between September and the end of November, there's nothing major really going on. So it's a great time to be in flow, to get routine really going, to really hit those health goals, go into the winter feeling strong. And I love it. I feel like it's this special time of year. And so I'm all about January and resolutions and these times that they just give life a bit of oomph, or else then everything's the same. So I always have this saying, and unless you're new, I'm sure you've heard it, where I say, through structure comes freedom. I got it through my dear friend Helen. And what I love about that saying is that, the structure and it being such a part of who you are when you develop these really great routines is that breaking it feels so good, but also the structure is like a magnet. It just brings you back. So as much as I loved the month of August where I'm just really off of everything and it just feels so good to be quite disconnected. I don't put my phone away, but I put it away a lot. I don't, because I'm traveling, my meals are different. I have certain rules that I just feel good with keeping, but generally things are pretty chilled. And I love it. But then towards the end, I start to feel that craving for that routine again. And I just think that's, for me, works so well to live life in that way. So this year I did go to Portugal again. I go every year now that my father's into his early 80s. And just because time is so precious, I also love to travel. Going to Portugal feels like home. I have friends there that have been my friends since the age of 3. So they really are like family and such a part of who I am. And so to connect with them is just wonderful. And so I feel really privileged and really lucky and really grateful to have that as part of my life. This year, I went for a much shorter time because I turned 50 and it was so much fun to turn 50. My twin brother, who doesn't like to celebrate birthdays, it's always a thing every year. I'm like, what are we going to do? And we have spent many birthdays apart, but just because life and as you get older, that happens. But this year, he really wanted to celebrate it. He wanted to go big. And I was like, okay, my only wish for my 50th truly was to be with my brother on that day because we weren't together for our 40th. And that always felt so sad to me. But, that was just, again, things happen. I think he was working or something and we were in different cities and all the things. So that was my only goal. And so it was whatever he wants to do, I will do it. But I always thought that he was going to want to be in Portugal and he didn't. He wanted to be in our hometown. So that was great. It was just the perfect day. It was wonderful. I loved celebrating with him and our family. And it was just really, really great. So that was that. And now we're back. Now we're back to September. Before I get into today's podcast, because what I'm going to talk about is the 10 lessons that I am taking into this next decade. They're lessons that I have learned. They're lessons that I am working on because I am definitely not someone that is there. I don't know if we ever are. Some of these I have kind of solidified more in my life and others are I feel like I've figured them out at 49. I started to realize them and now I'm still working on them. So anyway, before I get into that, I want to talk about Simply Strong. I'm going to run one more group. There's something about groups that I just absolutely love. And so I'm going to run another group. It's going to start September 22nd, but you need to be in by the 19th because you always get that Friday, Saturday, Sunday to absorb the information so that you can start on that Monday feeling pretty solid. And for more info on that, you can either go to rockofit.com or you can just have a look on Instagram on my link there, on my stories, or send me a message anytime and I'll send you the details. But it is a 6-week program and it's the Simply Strong method that is just my pride and joy. Like, it's just so powerful. It's what I do for myself. It's what's worked for my clients. And yeah, I'm so proud of this method. So if you're like, Rosa, I'm feeling stuck, like I'm in my 40s and beyond, and I'm feeling, or beyond, and I'm feeling stuck and nothing seems to be working. Honestly, this is just like, it's simple. Not simple doesn't always mean easy, but it is a simple method that is effective. No more quick fixes. Let's make this lifestyle. And so it really is more of a course, I would say, than just a program. It's a program in that you're going to follow the steps, you're going to get the results, but it's also a course in that you're going to learn why it works so that you can continue it beyond that. Okay, let's get into it. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on each one because there are 10 of them, but maybe they resonate with you. Maybe there's something that will leave you with some food for thought. And if they do resonate, please share this episode with your friends, forward it to them, share on Instagram any lessons that you've learned. Tag me. I love it so much when you tag me on social media. It's so great. Okay, let's get into it. So number one, they're not really in a particular order except for number one. And number one is that health is the greatest wealth. Without this, nothing else matters. Look, there are no guarantees in life. Crazy diagnoses happen, things happen, I know, but there's so much that we do have control of. We know that it's a fact that so many are suffering with chronic disease without it needing to be a part of your life. Lifestyle can change so much for us, and it is so worth it. Look, I'm not going to say I lost my health, but when I had mold and I was so sick, it really made me realize that this is absolutely everything. I've also seen people with incredible wealth that when they had no health, nothing else mattered, and that the wealth doesn't always save you. And so without it, it just is number one. I also got a lesson in this when I was training the princess in Saudi, and she just come back from the loss of a family member who had cancer. And again, we cannot predict what is going to happen in the future. But here's the thing. If we're strong, if we're fit, and if we're healthy, it doesn't mean that those things aren't going to happen, but it does mean that we have a stronger fighting chance at it. And it really is worth everything. And also, to go through life with energy and feeling good and, jumping out of bed doesn't mean we could do it every day, but we view life so much differently. It really impacts not only our well-being, but the way we think, the ability to think clearly, the way we interact with people, our ability to give more, to do more. It's just, health really is truly everything. So I'll get off the soapbox with that one. You get it. But, I've just seen this lesson time and time again that, look, I'm all about wealth too. Wealth is important. Struggling, I've been there struggling at rock bottom, and that doesn't bring on health. So they do impact each other, but health does come first. Number two is that gratitude changes everything. And I have to say that this was a lesson I learned in my early 20s. And when I'm not practicing gratitude, I can feel it. Things shift. My mindset shifts. I become more negative. And when I'm talking about gratitude, I'm not just talking about the big things. I'm talking about those little things. And when I go through my day, practicing gratitude and being super aware of the beautiful things that are happening around me, it brings me to be present. It makes me feel grounded, and it just is such an important shift. When I was 25, this is cheesy, but I remember I saw Oprah talk about a gratitude journal. And so I started doing that. And I had these rules around it where the 5 things that I wrote about had to be things that happened in my day. They couldn't just be general, like I'm thankful for my family. It had to be like, someone opened the door for me, or when I was cooking my dinner, it smelled so delicious and I was so grateful to be present. Whatever it is, it can just be so simple. But when I go through stages where I write them down, and that's really powerful. And then I'll go through stages where I just make sure that I'm present and I put the attention on what I am grateful for. So both are super powerful, but gratitude really has been a game changer for me. Number 3 is that presence is the real gift. This thing with, it's not just phones. Sometimes we're just distracted with life, and we cannot be perfect at this. Like there's no such thing at being perfect at this because life gets crazy and we go through periods where it's challenging. But I know that I know how it feels to truly be heard and seen. And that's when someone is listening to you and their phone isn't on the table in front of you when it just like will ding and you'll see it. It's when it's truly put away and you forget that they have it. But also that when I do that for others, I can feel it in others. I can feel it when someone is telling me something that's important to them and you see that little look at the phone or you just see it. Like it's like that little glimpse and you realize, oh gosh, like that just created a disconnect. And so that's something that I've been more conscious of it, I'd say in the last year, but also this summer, I got like such a sense of it. And it feels so good to be able to give that gift. And it feels good to receive that gift. And yeah, I could just think of, you're chatting with people and they've got, especially these phones. I find the watches are almost worse because you'll be talking to someone and then ding and they look at their phone and you're like, oh, actually what I was saying maybe wasn't as important and vice versa. I've done it too. And I think because I know of how it feels, it's made me more aware of how it must make other people feel. But it really is a gift in a world of distraction. And it's not to say that every conversation has to be intense and that, there's times where I'll say to people, look, I'm so sorry. Like I can have a coffee with you, but I am expecting this important call or this, these messages, or I'm still technically working right now. It's my office hours. And so if you see me being distracted, like I think that's an important thing too, is to be upfront about it. And again, no one's perfect at it. It's just to recognize that it really is a beautiful gift that you can give someone. Okay. The other one is radical responsibility. This one I definitely learned through life, but also through like my divorce that I don't like to speak about often just because I'm not one that lives in the past, but to look at it and ask myself, okay, where was I responsible for this as well? And I think in life so we can go through life feeling like it's easier to blame people. And this is beyond my divorce. This is other situations. Sometimes life just isn't fair. Like we get caught up and horrible things can happen to us where it isn't necessarily our fault. But unless we take radical responsibility for it, it's impossible to move forward. And sometimes the responsibility is that we allowed something to happen, that we weren't brave enough to ask hard questions, or that we ignored those signs that were clear and yet, we wanted to ignore them. And so taking that radical responsibility is so important to moving forward. It's important to healing. It's important to growing and also to attracting like wonderful things into our life. And so that was a hard lesson for me to be like, was I at like, where can I take responsibility here? And it's not about staying in the ick, but it really is about acknowledging and yeah, being able to learn and again, have beautiful things happen to us in the future because we are all of a sudden we can become courageous and learn from our past. Then number 5 is the courage to have hard conversations. Oh, is this one that I am working on? I have to admit, I have become stronger at this. I have become better at it. And recently there was a situation where I felt myself like retract and become small again and feel like teenager. My childhood and teenage years were a lot of suppressing and a lot of keeping everything in because, again, there's usually a consequence to speaking up, and the consequence is often very hurtful. However, going into adulthood, I didn't get any better than this, but I'd say in the last year or so, I've recognized that this is a huge part for me personally of my journey, and within relationships with family, with friends, romantic relationships where I just haven't been courageous to speak up. But there have been, I'd say in the last few months, moments where I was like, nope, be brave. And I literally talk to myself like I'm a teenager. Be brave, speak up. You can handle the consequence. And often we know what that consequence is. And so we really can be prepared. But I've also done this by practicing. Like often when we're quiet and we don't feel we have the courage to have those hard conversations, it's a scenario that's happened to us over and over and over. And so what I've done is I've taken the time to reflect, what are those scenarios? What response do I want to have? And what will, once I get that consequence, because it's not easy when you speak up, what is my response after? Like, so I've been working myself through scenarios, and it's really been working. Like, I had a really, and these conversations aren't always drawn out either, but I really have been standing up for myself and having these conversations. And it's actually, the consequence that I thought was going to be really hard actually wasn't. It actually grew my relationship in that situation and is kind of taking it to a much better place. And so I'm looking forward to seeing how that moves forward. And I know I'm being very cryptic, but it's just, that's kind of like the personal side of things. But yeah, I'm just saying it's totally worth it. Have those hard conversations. I know hard conversations probably would have definitely saved me years of pain. But anyway, okay. The other thing is number 6. Number 6 is celebrate. I find this hard at times, and I tend to really diminish sometimes celebrating things that have gone really well. In some ways, I love to celebrate with my friends, and I love to celebrate them. And for myself, this has been a struggle at times. And it's also part of the entrepreneurial thing. Like, you hit a goal and then you're like, okay, move on to the next thing. Or now I got to do this, or now I got to do that. And you forget to actually celebrate and be present where you're at. And so I'm learning to celebrate like little things, like having a friend over and having a glass of champagne together. Or I don't know, just, it doesn't have to be huge, these celebrations, but learning to really acknowledge and celebrate others too, not just celebrating my wins, but friends, especially girlfriends, because guess what? They're not great at celebrating either what they have accomplished and what they're doing so incredibly well. And sometimes doing incredibly well is surviving. It's going through a hard season and, still showing up every day. And so acknowledging friends that are doing that, being like, you're doing awesome, like, keep it up. And I've been really trying to be more celebratory of my friends and know that, like, acknowledge, like, you're doing a great job, like, you're a great parent, you're like, I can see what you're doing, whatever it is. I'm kind of drawing a blank, but I'm working on saying what I think. Like, so often we think wonderful things about people and we just don't say them. So for them, and then also celebrating with myself. Okay, number 7 is who you spend time with matters. Oh gosh, is this like one that I know it's a lesson I have to keep learning, but the people you spend time with literally can lift you up, help you to feel confident, or they can like really trigger like the like self-confidence in you and diminish you and make you question everything. And this is, we all have to do the work so that doesn't impact us, that other people don't have the ability to do that to us. But here's the thing. No matter how strong you are, if you keep spending time with people that do this over and over and over, whether it's the criticizing or whether it's the making you feel insecure or all the things, you could be the strongest person in the world, but keep putting yourself in that place and you will, in time, it will erode you. So who you spend time with, you've got to protect yourself. And sometimes those people are people that are close to you and you can't cut them out. But then that comes out to, are you willing to have those conversations if this person is important to you enough? Or is this, can you see it growing and moving forward? And if not, then you've got a choice to make. But again, who you spend time with, it's everything. The people around you will make you healthier. It's, how much easier health is with people who are healthy. It's wild. If your friends don't drink or they're just drink occasionally, it's so much easier not to drink. If they are the friends that you go to a restaurant with and they're making healthy choices, you're likely to make a healthy choice without even thinking about it. People influence each other, whether we like to admit that or not. People do influence each other, including the way we influence others as well. And so make those choices. Spend spend the most time with people who really are a positive influence in your life. That is everything. Okay, number 8 is money matters. Gosh, did I spend a lot of time really, that whole, it doesn't matter. Like, you should just, like, money isn't everything. Look, I have actually recently been shamed for saying that money matters or acknowledging that money matters. And I was actually told that I'm money hungry, which, look, that comment, maybe because I'm bringing it up, this person's going to think, oh, it did affect you. Here's the thing. I know my heart, and I know that that's not how I judge people. It's not what is important to me in terms of someone's character. But here's also what I know is that being dead broke and wondering where your next meal is coming from doesn't feel good, and it doesn't bring health. And when I had hit rock bottom back in 2012, after coming back from London and being in Vancouver, and a series of events happened where it was just like I went from having everything to having nothing. And I'm telling you that is not good for your health. The amount of anxiety that I had, the amount of stress, how it impacted my food choices, the way it impacted my sleep, that was not good. And so what I mean by money matters is that that's not how we judge people, but you better make sure that you better believe that it does matter. And for me, it's important if it impacts my life in that way. And so I've always been really great with with money. And again, this comes up down to who you spend time with matters, because when I lost everything, I was also living in a situation with someone who didn't value it, and it all disappeared. And so it was a tough lesson, and one that, now I was able to rebuild myself because of the skills that I have acquired over the years, and also because I was raised with really great, healthy relationship around money with my mother. She just taught us how to save. Now, she didn't teach us how to generate great wealth, because I just don't think that was that generation. That generation were workhorses. They were savers. And at the time, life was also different. They were able to buy houses with what they made and all the things, but life has changed a little bit. And since then, I've surrounded myself with people who actually can teach me how to generate wealth. And it's exciting and it's fun. And it just matters. And there is no shame in that. And I feel like as women, this doesn't happen to men. Men are not shamed for speaking about how much they love it and how important it is to them. And yet women are. So in the same sense that I was shamed for it, that very person that shamed me for it values it and isn't embarrassed to say it or ashamed to say it. And so it's an interesting conversation. It had me really reflecting. And at first, actually, when I was told that, and it really hurt me. And I remember I got like really teary-eyed, and I was like, you're actually attacking my character. And I thought, wow, why did that hurt? And it hurt because I don't judge people on money. But also, I'm not going to be shamed for valuing it. So anyways, I wanted to share that because, again, I think as women, this lesson in particular is a big one. Okay, number 9, selfishness and selflessness are both equally important. This one I've been reflecting on a lot because I think it's so important to be selfish. And this is, again, I feel like as women, we are ashamed for being selfish, but selfish is key. If you're not selfish with yourself, if you're not selfish with your health, with your needs, you will be so worn down and exhausted. And so many of us are like functioning on survival mode. I have to say I'm not anymore because I'm okay with being selfish. Like I really am. And I've been called this by people that are close to me, just like in moments, not that they think I'm selfish, but like in a moment, I'm like, okay, but you are absolutely exhausted and not well and unable to give because of not being able to be selfish. And so I see the value in being selfish. But there's that other coin, because I think also we are, this whole selfish
movement and like how important it is to give to ourselves first and all the things has also gone so far the other way, because I think there's such joy and such beauty in being selfless and giving, like being like, okay, this isn't convenient for me right now. I wanted to do this, but my friend or my family member needs me now. And so I'm going to actually not be selfish right now, but I'm going to be selfless and I'm going to give to them. And that is so important too. And recognizing when to do which one is key. And so I don't want to be a selfish person all the time. I want to have moments where it's important to be selfish because I need to give to myself in order to give to others. But it's so important that we are able to lean on ourselves to be able to say, you know what, right now, work isn't more important. You having my full attention is more important. And I'm going to, and we gain so much from that too. And I think there's that danger zone where so many people now feel like they're an inconvenience if they feel like they're taking your time, or they're an inconvenience if they know that you've given something up for them. And yet that's not true. It's really the human experience, and we have to be able to rely on each other. And so I think being selfless is also very, very important. And I love that. It feels good when you can give as well as give to yourself as well as give to others. Okay, the last one is freedom, and how freedom for me really is everything. It is up there with health, probably my top value, one of them, but freedom is everything. But freedom, I've realized, isn't just being able to do what we want when we want. Because if we're in relationship or we have responsibilities, there's times where it's like you have to make decisions and you don't feel so free because you're compromising and you're doing what someone else wants. But I've come to realize that freedom is all of those things that I just talked about. It's comes down to being authentically your truest expression of yourself. That is freedom. When you're able to speak up and not have that closed-in feeling, when you're able to compromise and know that it's coming from like a place of being selfless in that moment and wanting to make someone else the priority, but that it feels good. It's that feeling that it feels good to be able to do these things, and that you feel it in your body. And that now for me is freedom. Again, it's not that just being able to take off anytime that I want. And like that's like surface level freedom, having the freedom to make these choices when we want. And I think that that's like what the freedom movement has become in terms of like, entrepreneurs. Become an entrepreneur, then you'll have freedom. Like, no, you don't. You still have like a lot of responsibility and a lot of work to do. But it comes from like, in this moment, how do I feel? How am I being authentically myself? And so that for me has been a big shift in terms of what is freedom and what does this word mean? Okay, so those have been my 10 lessons. I'm not going to review them all because that's a lot. I hope that they've resonated with you. Like I said, some of them, I feel like I've become stronger in them. Others, I've just kind of started surface understanding them. It probably like in the last few months, they're not lessons that I have down packed. And you know what? I hope I never do, because life is a journey and it's continuously growing. And my mother, who I always speak about, she always says, gosh, we're always learning. And I absolutely love that about her. And I think that's one of the greatest lessons that she continues to give and to inspire me. Okay, beautiful friend, have a lovely one. Again, if you want to join Simply Strong, send me a message. We start on the 22nd. You need to be in by the 19th. Send me a message. You know how to get in touch with me on Instagram at RoccoFit, on the website, roccofit.com. Everything is still RoccoFit. Simply Strong is the method that I use. Okay, have a beautiful day.
Thank you so much for listening in today. I know time is precious, and I'm grateful you shared yours with me. It would mean the world to me if you felt an impact, a moment of inspiration, or learned something new. If you would share it with those you care about and leave me a review on iTunes. I'd love to know what spoke to you or what you'd like to hear more of. Your sharing and leaving a review would help so much on this journey to making an impact on as many people as possible. It's worth it. I know from experience, there are moments when something we hear has the possibility of changing everything.